everyone. Welcome back to the Midlife Evolved YouTube channel. I'm Sue, your menopause coach and the founder of Midlife Evolved. Today we are going to continue our series, The ABCs of Menopause, and we've landed on the letter I. So we're going to be discussing inflammation. What is inflammation and how does it affect us during this time of our lives? So there are two different kinds of inflammation. There is acute inflammation and chronic inflammation. We need acute inflammation because when things happen to our bodies, such as an injury or a bacterial infection, acute inflammation is what our body does to really ramp up the healing process. So we need that. On the other hand, chronic inflammation, which many of us living in this modern world suffer from chronic inflammation, happens when the inflammatory system in our bodies is constantly being triggered and won't turn off. What that can lead to is things like pain, fatigue, disease. There's so many things that chronic inflammation can lead to. But the other thing is during menopause, because our estrogen levels do become so low, we have higher levels of inflammation because that estrogen was helping to regulate our estrogen levels. So because of that, and they've done studies on this as well, that women in menopause, after they stop producing all the estrogen that we've used all these years, there are markers that we measure for inflammation that are seen to be much higher in menopausal women because they don't have that estrogen regulating the inflammation levels. So that's just another reason why we need to be very aware of inflammatory things in our lives. And I'm going to just talk a bit about what those inflammatory things are and how we can deal with them. So not surprisingly, many inflammatory things come from the food we eat, and we can change that. And that's what's great. It's not that hard. We can actually figure out what the inflammatory things are in our diets, try to have less of those, and try to have more of the anti-inflammatory foods or things in our lives that we can do. If you would like to know what is an inflammatory food, well, seed vegetable oils. Vegetable oils that have a very high omega-6 ratio. What we're looking for, just in general, is an equal omega-6 to omega-3. And that's one of the reasons why we are seeking out more omega-3s in our diet. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But omega-6s from those highly processed vegetable oils, and that can be cottonseed oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, that can really up the inflammation in our bodies. So many things we buy in boxes, if you look on the ingredients, what kind of oil do they use? They use those vegetable oils. So you want to seek out the oils that are less inflammatory, things like olive oil, coconut oil in some circumstances. So really not having those seed oils that are high in those omega-6 is super important. On the other end of that spectrum, a food like salmon, for example, that is very high in omega-3s is very anti-inflammatory. So if you want to kind of get rid of the seed oils, omega-6s, and seek out the omega-3s, the healthy fatty acids, you're already on the right track, okay? So there's that. Other things that can cause inflammation in our bodies include things like not just food related, but stress, which I talk about a lot, is something that can up the inflammatory response in our bodies. So we want to try to be able to find ways to regulate the stress in our lives, whether it's just a deep breathing exercises, doing that box breath where you take an inhale to the count of 4, hold for the count of 4, and exhale for the count of 4 or longer. So that's just a simple technique for regulation of stress in your life. So that's something else that can cause stress. Other inflammatory things in our lives, alcohol, for some people, a lot of caffeine. So kind of watching out for that in our lives. That's something that we can do to tamp down the inflammation in our lives. Other things that can be so combat the inflammation in our lives, things that we can eat, such as citrus is something that can actually tamp down the inflammation response in our bodies. Nuts, which have a lot of healthy fats, berries, all things that we can kind of easily find to make sure we are getting enough of in our lives. So just be aware of the inflammatory foods, cut those down, be aware of the anti-inflammatory foods and increase those. So like I said, this is something that we know to be true in menopausal women, is that our inflammation, which can cause so many things, and it can be a little confusing, right? Because menopause causes some of the same symptoms as inflammation. So we have pain, we have fatigue, we have depression. All those things can come from inflammation and also come from the experience of menopause. So it can get a little confusing. And when you're in menopause, it's just that the inflammation can increase your chances of having those symptoms. So we want to watch out for that. And like I said, there are many different things that will help to combat inflammation in our lives. If you want to know a little bit more, I talk about this a lot also on my Instagram page. You can find me at sue.midlifeevolved over on Instagram. Send me a DM, send me a message here on YouTube. I would be happy to answer questions. I just want to support you in any way I can. Thanks everyone. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.